The phrase 9/11 for all time will have special memory, and it will evoke a memory of a moment in history where the world as we knew it changed forever. It is fitting that every year on September the 11th, and now referred to as Patriot Day, that Americans join across this nation in various ways to honor the more than 3,000 Americans who lost their lives on that day in Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., and of course, New York City. May our main purpose be to remember and celebrate that the United States is resilient and that we cannot shy away from sharing this, and I will not shy away from saying it. There are evil, radical forces in this world that would love to destroy our and your way of life in this great country we live in. That being said, what we experienced was a moment of unity that we need more of. And maybe a day like this can bring us together even more for what is right. We prayerfully acknowledge together the loss and sacrifice of so many great people. And I want to be very clear today. Today is a painful day for a lot of Americans. Maybe you have already experienced within your family some of what I'm talking about that connects to you. Or maybe today, if someone opens up, an adult that lived through that time, there could be a connection that takes us right to those losses and that grief. To all first responders, as we reflect on all those that were members of the military, I think that we should continually be grateful and thankful for those that are willing, when others run away, they run towards, in, and sometimes through. And when I lay my head down at night, and I will be resting, dreaming of Friday Night Lights to come, I will know that there are men and women around this world, literally, who in a second's notice will stand up and defend us, whatever the cost. We have the honor of living in the greatest nation on earth. And let me be clear about something. We're evolving. Just like I always say with our school, we are not settling. Our nation's not settling. Our flag was never meant to be a blindfold that we put around our eyes to cover our national ills. It only means that great citizens, we must stand up to make each generation better that we live in. And that's why it's so important that I look out here. Because the facts are this. In a transition of time, this is your time. It will be your time, your generation. And you are the ones that must re-win, relive, and redefine what this great republic will be in the future. And I promise you, it will not last long unless you have the ones that are willing to step up and defend at all costs this great nation. And very much an audience like this, but this was back in the 19th century. A Czechoslovakian statesman stood up and addressed an American audience. It was his first visit to the United States. Dignitaries took him around. And as he got in front of the Americans, early 19th century, he had these things to say. And I want to present to you how relevant these words are to us today as Americans. Most Americans accept their freedom as a matter of course. Sometimes it seems to me you free people do not realize what you've got. You can wake up in the morning free to choose to read, to go to a place of education, to worship the way you please, or even just to listen to a lovely piece of music. We take for granted so much. I take for granted so much. It is a sobering thought that most of you were not born when this tragedy occurred. It's rather amazing. A lot here today, you know of family members that do remember. They remember, and some in this audience, by the way, most of them are against the wall and in front of you right now. Remember exactly where they were at. They remember it as vividly as if it was yesterday. Throughout our history, different generations have images that become ingrained in their minds. And thank goodness for good documentation and good study of history, which we need to. We can grasp these images, and the best ones are if they are from the mouth of that person or you can see the event. We have those that remember that image of the flag being raised at Iwo Jima, the day that President Kennedy was killed, the day that Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. Neil Armstrong, I have to admit, I was a baby, but enough that I remember a black and white TV and this astronaut that was so cool I could barely see stepping out of this spacecraft. What world are we living in? Onto the moon. President Reagan telling the Soviets, tear down this wall. And the other side of it is, when we look at 9/11, it's the same way. It is ingrained in our memories. The images of planes, as already been alluded to by Colonel Payne, flying into the World Trade Center, smoke rising from the Pentagon, courage and courageous act of men and women as they raced into burning buildings to save the innocent. Heroes who died in a Pennsylvania field, taking over a plane, people like you and me. And we don't know for sure the designation of that plane, but it meant harm. And they saved the day with that one, but not themselves. Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, freedom cannot be bestowed, it must be achieved. Being American, this is something you have to think about. It doesn't mean that you'll serve in the military, that you have to, but some will. But being a citizen of this republic carries responsibility. I believe that with my whole heart. It's your time coming. I only say in the same way that others in events I've mentioned and many others said, don't forget, never forget. When we were attacked on our own soil. We cheer for athletes. I'll lose my voice Friday night cheering for athletes. We laud entertainers. And I have no problem with that at all. But I want to come before you today and say, let us at least commit to spend time to honor true heroes. Unsung everyday heroes. Of all races and ethnic groups, gender, it doesn't matter. That make a commitment to say, I'll be the first one to run in, I will stand up, I will go, I will defend, I'll take an oath. They are the ones that allow us to enjoy our Friday night lights. It doesn't take a seminar, and this isn't meant to be. This is from the heart. On the tragic events in Pennsylvania, New York City, Pentagon, and Washington, D.C., to be reminded that the price of freedom is costly. And that's something we shouldn't forget. 9/11 provides for us, and I hope in some way it can be never forgotten, a kaleidoscope of sight, and for some reason people involved in it even smell that they'll never forget. And through all that is the constant theme that freedom is not free. Freedom is the source of great music. Freedom has been the source of some amazing speeches. Some of our most greatest ones have occurred on the grassy area in Washington, D.C. Some were killed for their thoughts. Freedom has been the subject of flaming oratory. Freedom is the heart cry of mankind, especially if you've ever been able to travel to any of the other places in this world. Freedom is a great gift. We are blessed with it in wonderful abundance in our country, and we should never settle. And I know that you won't, this group I'm looking at, and it makes me feel great. Freedom's preservation is a responsibility of those, yes, in those halls of Congress, whose monumental and far-reaching decisions, stay with me, are important. But I want to present to you today, more than any other place, it is our responsibility. The common man, common woman, who are special and extraordinary, because in that we are the ones who must demand the restoration of morality and integrity as the bedrock of this great country we live in. We are the ones that must demand a responsive sensitivity to every citizen in this land. And we, if you'll take it up, are the ones that need to lead and be courageous enough to do the unpopular, because it is the right thing to do, to preserve the life and the human rights of every citizen of this nation.